Hello, good morning everyone. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay. So today we are going to focus on the authentication and authorization as we discussed last time. So we will extend our last application, the To-Do app, which we built in the previous sessions, which we have been building for the last some sessions. So mainly we will focus on how we can implement the authentication and authorization in our application. So, and for that, I will be using Vuex. The reason for that is because let's say you want to track whether the user is logged in or not. So every component of your application should know this state, so that you can like modify the behavior of your components. Like if the user is not logged in, so you redirect it to the login page. So you want all your components to know about the status of your user, whether he is logged in or not. So that's why we will use the Vuex to store that information. And also we will walk. I have modified our API, which we have been using since uh, last sessions. So I have also modified that API. So I will walk through the API, what changes I have made in the API, and why I did that. So for the backend, we are going to use the Flask security. So and I will be providing that code. Since this is not, I mean, this session is not about the Flask security, because Flask security we are supposed to know in Mat 1. Like the backend part is we are supposed to know in the Mat 1 how you create API and how you implement the authentication and authorization in backend. You are supposed to know from the Mat 1. So we will be mainly focusing on the front end today. So how we can use the Flash security to authenticate our user and then authorize the user to fetch the resources. So this will be the main agenda of today's session. So is there
Sir,
any, yeah?
sir, are we going to have a UCLI session?
Yeah. So once we'll finish creating this application using the CDN, I will
Okay.
migrate to the Vue CLI. That's why
Okay.
the structure. That's why the structure I have. I mean, I have created the structure for the same reason,
Okay, sir.
because the,
Fine.
the structure of the Vue CLI application. I mean, the Vue CLI is similar.
Fine, sir. Okay.
So can you please share the to-do application code so that we can follow along today?
Okay, so it's on the GitHub. You can not allowed to share my screen.
So can you drop GitHub link here in chat box?
Okay, okay. I'll first communicate to the
Okay, sir.
Okay, I'll share the code.
So it's a V-Create live session or to-do app?
To do app.
So the one committed on 22nd June, right now.
Yeah. Don't remember the name. But the to do app is the name of the repo.
Yes, sir.
And the API link I'll also share. Yeah. So I have shared both the links for the API and to do app. Now I will share my screen. So is my screen visible?
Yes, sir, visible.
So in our API, what I have added, like I have added one more model, the users model. So user mixing, before we move forward, let's go to the config.py and see what are the configuration changes I have made. So that if you go to the like config class, so the database URI was already set and secret key was already set. The secret password salt is something that Flask SQL, the Flask security uses to like to generate the token. It mixes in your data and then create the token for the security. And track modification you already know. And WTF CSRF enabled is false. For with this configuration, what we are trying to say that we don't want to use the cross-site like forgery. So what happens? Let's say I'll So if some website is using JavaScript to send the app, to send the request to the server, so if someone has the similar code, then he can also, and let's say he has the cookie, so he can create his own website and then he can send the same request to the server, and server will not be able to understand which client sent the request. Because all you have to do, you have to send the request. But I mean, this is a security threat. So what happens is like the server sends a CSRF token, and this CSRF token goes inside the body and the header, and then server verifies that this is the same client. I mean, this is the client which is supposed to send a request to me. Like by the client, what I mean, like let's say you have a front end application, right? So when you are like visiting the website, you are downloading its JavaScript file, and there can be two scenarios. So you can send the request from the downloaded JavaScript which you downloaded from that client. I mean from that server, or you can send a request from a separate JavaScript file. So how would you differentiate between these two clients? Because both are sending requests to the server. So to solve this, someone can copy my website and then will be able to send the request to the server, and server will not be able to understand which client sent the request. So to make sure that the request is coming from the valid client, we use the CSRF token. And in our session, we are not going to use the CSRF token. That's why we have used this WTF CSRF enabled files configuration. And we are going to use the authentication token to like authorize or to authorize our client. That's why the configuration in line number 14. So the security token authentication header is authentication token. So we will be sending our token in the header called authentication token. Is there any question in these configurations?
So we are using a token-based approach.
Yeah.
And the token we are going to send through the header.
Header. Yeah, header. And the header name will be authentication token.
Fine, sir. Okay.
So this is the configuration which the Flash security will use. So this for the line number 11, 13, and 14. These three configuration are specific to the Flash security, and Flash SQL Alchemy track modification you already know. So if you don't want to populate your what you say, the terminal with all those messages, so you put the Flash SQL Alchemy track modification false, and the database URI you already know, and secret key is needed if you are using the Flash security, because Flash security is built on top of the Flash login, and in order to use the Flash login, you need to have a security key. It's not specific to the Flash login. It's actually specific to the Flash to the sessions. So if you use the session in your application, so you need to set the security key. Okay, these are the configuration which we are going to use, and I have like added one more model. So the task.py we already had in the last session, and this is the user class. This is the user model. So by the user mixin, if you have used the Flash login before, so you know that the mixin classes are the classes which you build to extend the functionality of some class. User mixin is created to extend the functionality of user class. You can think of it as a like bunch of methods which we don't want to give it to the user class as a like base as a base functionality, but we created it because if someone wants to use the user mixin, then he can use the user mixin. It is a bunch of methods which you can use with the user class, user model, you can say. I mean, the name user is fixed for the Flash security. That's why I'm saying the user class. And this user class will have username, email, password, ID. I have not added the name and first name, last name, this kind of information. But if you want, you can add those fields also. But I'm going with the username, email, and password. And one more thing will come here is FS unifier. FS unifier will be used as a key for the user, and it will be used to create the token for the user, which the application will send to the client, and what the client has to do after I mean, in each request he has to send that token to the server, and server will understand which client has sent the request. So the FX unifier will be used to generate that token. It's a unique string for the user. That's it. It's kind of identifier for the user, which will be used to generate the authentication token. And roles, here is the role class. A role, I mean, role is used for authorization. So you can create multiple roles, like you can create the admin role and some admin role. So, and you can protect your API endpoint with that role. Like if someone has that, if someone has this role, then he can access this resource. Otherwise, he will not be able to access this resource. So you can protect your the API endpoint based on the role also. So we are not going to use this role in our session, but I have added it because I mean this you can use in your application. So if in future we will, if in future we want to add some role to the user, so we can do it. And here are the tasks. So this is the row that defines the relationship with the task. So it's a one-to-many relationship. Like each user can have multiple tasks. So you can see that this task is related to the task model. And backref, if you already know that you can back reference this user from the task model, I mean task object. And the lazy is used how you can like how you load the data. I mean, lazy parameter defines how you load the data. You want to load it as a subquery because this data will be loaded from the other table. It's not from the user table. This data will be loaded from the task table. So this lazy parameter defines how this task data will be loaded. You can join two tables and then load the task, or you can like use it. You can load the data from the task as a subquery. So this, I mean, this parameter defines that. So I have all these things and user roles because the user and role have the many-to-many relationship. So in order to define the many-to-many relationships, you need to have a table. So I mean, this is the standard way to define a many-to-many relationship. Like one user can have multiple roles and multiple user can have like multiple users can have multiple roles. And this is the standard way you like define many-to-many relationship in class SQL. So nothing new here. And I will go to the resources now. So the task resource was already there. The only new thing I have added here is now, along with the marshal width, I am also using the auth required. So auth required is used to protect your resource. So like if I have like added this auth required, so anyone who don't have the token, valid token, will not be able to access that resource. So this is the new decorator which I have added, nothing, and I have changed nothing else from the last API. And along with that, I have also added a user resource. So this user resource I have added in order to host the data to the database, like to create a user. And this the get method will return the current user. Current user is a proxy which Flask SQL Alchemy like provides. Flask security provides. So the perks of using the Flask security is you don't have to define anything for the login and logout. I mean, a lot of functionalities are already built in Flask security. You just have to use those functionalities. It's kind of abstraction. I'll go to the Flask security website. So if you go here, then you can see that the Flask security is built on top of Flask login, Flask mail, Flask principal, Flask WTF, it's dangerous, Fastly. It's kind of abstraction over all these modules. Flask security. So it has a lot of functionality. That's why I mean, we decided to go with the Flask security. And then one more important thing was there. So I have added one more file called, I'll go to the utils. So the security.py. So inside the security.py, you can see that I have created a SQL Alchemy user data store. So the SQL Alchemy user data store, I'll go to the data stores and we'll try to make you understand why we have created the SQL Alchemy user data store. So I'll go to the APIs and data store. So what data store is, like data store. So if you are using some model, then the data store is bunch of methods which is related to the database operations. So if you see the SQL Alchemy data store, so I have passed DB. I mean, this is how it's built. The class SQL Alchemy user data store uses database. I mean DB, user, and role. You need to pass these three parameters. So and using these three, the DB, user, and role, it creates it is like collection of methods which is related to the database operations. Like if you go to the Flask data store, so you can see that the add permission to role, it will add permission to some role, and like you can create role, you can create user. All these methods are there. Deactivate user, delete user. I mean, these are the database operations which you generally use. So they have already built these operations, and you just have to initialize this. You just have to create the object of this class, and you will be able to use all these methods. You don't have to write dd.commit. I mean, all those queries. All those queries has already been built, has already been written. You just have to use these methods. So, I mean, this is for that. Purpose. And if you, I mean, there are some, I was experimenting, so there are a lot of code that is not relevant. So I'll be deleting those codes and then we'll come back again. So don't worry, it will not affect the application. And this was the first request. First request you already know. So before making the request, you just have to. I mean, I want the application to create a like entry in the data in the user table with the email Narendra and the password. The password is to hash the password. Okay, I don't think I have anything else to. I have added anything else. So the new thing I have added is a new user model and new resource class. So new user resource. So if you go to the post method, you can see that I am using the user data store create user. I am not like writing .commit on all those things. Commit you have to write, but everything is being taken care by the Flask security. So I'll be using the data store methods in order to perform the database operations. So I have used the create user, and you can use the find user method to like check whether the data is already there. So for example, I have used the email equal to data email, and if I found the user with that email, so I just raise the conflict that, hey, you already have this entry, so you don't have to put this again. So any question from the API?
Can you explain that marshal with once again?
Okay, marshal with like if you go here, so you can use a resource fields. The marshal with uses user resource fields.
Hello.
Yeah.
Good morning,
Hello.
Rohit. I'm fine. How are you?
Fine. Okay. Someone is like,
Oh, okay. Okay.
Now he muted.
so where? Okay. You are asking about the marshal. So what happens if you see the post method? No, get method. So the current user is a user object. It's an object. It's not a like something that you can serialize in a JSON string. By serializing means I want to, if you want to convert it, convert some object in JSON string. I mean, converting from some object to some object is called serializing. So when I'm saying that I want to serialize some object in JSON string, that what I mean is I want to convert that object to a JSON string. So the current user is a object. You cannot directly convert it in a JSON string. So what this Marshall bit does, it takes this a dictionary. You can create a dictionary like this. I have created a dictionary, and it will map those things. I mean, it will create the dictionary out of that object. So that object will have an email field. If you see the email, if you see the user object, that user object has ID, email, username, password. All these things are there for a particular user. So if you will like fetch the data from the database using SQL Alchemy, it will be a user object, and that object will have attribute, email, and username. So what it will do, it will like create a dictionary which will have two like keys, email and username, and the value of the email key will be the value of the value of the email attribute of that object. Did you understand?
Oh, I'm getting that, sir.
Yeah, you have an object in you have an object and you have a dictionary. So what you are doing, you are fetching the email attribute of that object and assigning the value of this email field with that value. And the same thing you are doing, you are fetching the data from the username attribute of that user object, and the value of, and you are making the value of this key username that username. I mean, it's kind of mapping from the user object to a dictionary. So once you have this dictionary, yeah.
What is this fields.string? Which fields part?
String, yeah, the fields, the Flask REST full provides.
Okay.
This is where all the magic happens. Otherwise, it's just a dictionary.
Okay, sir.
You are just informing this dictionary that the value of the email will be a string.
So we are taking only email and username. Password we are not taking.
No, we are not, and you can use it for filtering also. It will only fetch those data from the user object which you have mentioned here. That, for example, here we are only like we have decided to send the only user and email and username to the client. So we have only mentioned this email and username. So this fields will only fetch the username and email from that particular user object and assign the value to this email and username keys. So in this way, you can also filter some data.
Yes, sir, this is clear.
So now I hope we can move to the front end part now. So before going forward, what I will do, I will open the not needed. I'll open the Postman and I will show how this class like security works. So if you see our user resource, we have not defined anything like login and logout. These things are already built in Flash security. You just have to use it. Now, what you have to do, do to fetch the authentication token from the backend is to you just have to make a request to this endpoint. So this is the like base URL of the server, and you just have to add /login and question mark and one query parameter include auth7. And now if you'll make a request, okay, I have a email and password. So if I will make a request, you can see that it has sent me the response. The code of this response is 200, and along with that, he has sent me the CSRF token, which we are not going to send to the client to the server again. We are just going to use this authentication token. But it's a good practice to send the CSRF token also. So the user authentication token. So we are going to use this authentication token for rest of the request. So along with the as I like mentioned before that in the authentication token header, we are going to send the authentication token. So this is the token which we are going to send along with the request. I mean, this token will be different for different users. So it means that a user with the email user to @gmail.com and password 1234, the authentication token is this one. So I'll just repeat again. So we are not building this endpoint. This is already built in Flash security. All you have to do, you have to make a request with the /login include token, and the Flash security will automatically send you the CSRF token and authentication token. So we will be ignoring the CSRF token because in the configuration we said that we don't want to like use the CSRF token, but we will be using the authentication token, and we will send this authentication token with the in the authentication token header. Is it clear now?
So can you show in the code where how is authentication token generated?
No, I'm not generating anything. It's being done by the Flash security. I have not implemented this login endpoint. That's why I am repeating again and again.
So
So
probably
every
the question might be like when we hit this URL
Yeah.
or endpoint URL, where
Yeah.
it will actually go at my code, because there must be some kind of a place where
Yeah,
it is
yeah.
getting.
So for that you will have to look into this Flash security core module. So we have installed the Flash security, right?
Uh,
So this is the code to handle this URL is written in that module.
Okay, so we are just importing that module and that
Yeah,
is
yeah.
handling it.
No, we are not even importing that. We have just installed that, and we are making a request, and it's being handled by. I mean, installing means you can use all the functionality that are available in the class security. That's what the installing means. So I mean, it's already written the how to handle this slash login include auth token inside that module, and we are just using that.
Sir, authentication token will be valid for session.
No, it's nothing to do with the session. We have just eliminated that session. What is happening? We are sending a request to the login include auth token, and the Flash security has already implemented this endpoint, and he is generating a token and sending it back to us, like whoever has sent the request.
Now,
In
if
this
I
case,
turn off the server and start the server again, so is it
yeah,
going to generate the same token, or it that
no,
time
it will
next?
no, it will just change the token.
Okay.
I don't.
So it's runtime, means every time it is going to have a new token
Yeah,
and taken care by Flash security.
yeah. You see, in the last part there was RM, but this time there is no. It will be different.
Yes, sir.
No, but you can use any of these tokens to like send the request, because I will be saving this authentication token in my local storage, and then will be like you sending that token back to the server in order to authorize. I mean, in order to show the server that I am an authorized user. So please give me the resource. Is this okay? So I will repeat it again. We are not implementing this endpoint. This endpoint has already been implemented by the Flash security creator, whoever has implemented. We are just using this endpoint. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Fine. So now what I will do, I will go to our application, and before I'll go to the task.js. Okay, main.js was the first. No, I will be seeing in the views. So if you go to the home.js, task, home.js, let's run this first. Okay, it's paste it in web. Okay, maybe I have the wrong URL in API URL. Let's change it. API URL. Let's run it again. Okay, slash APIs. Okay, now you can see that the unexpected response. Can anyone like explain why this happened?
Because we have not provided the token.
Yeah, we have not provided the token. So what will happen? The default behavior of class security is if you will not, if the route is like protected by the auth token required decorator, it will redirect you to some HTML where you have to. It's an HTML form, so where you will fill all your details, and then it will redirect you back to where to the page which you requested. So I'll repeat it again. The default behavior is if the route is protected by whatever manner, like for for our use it's authentication token. If the route is protected, and if you make a request to that route to that endpoint, then it will direct you to an HTML form where you'll have to fill your username and password. And if you will fill a like valid user and password, it will redirect you back the to the page which you requested. Is it clear? So what is happening? We are not sending authentication token. So we are not an authorized user. So what the Flash security is sending us, it's a HTML. So if you go to the fetch function, so if you go to the fetch function, you can see that if the response is not JSON serializable, what this statement is trying to convert the response into JSON. Into JSON, into object, the JSON to JavaScript object. But what happens is it's not a JSON response because it's an HTML. So it cannot be converted into a JavaScript object. So it will throw an error. So it will catch so it will be handled in the catch. And I am throw error unexpected response. That's why we are seeing this unexpected response here. I think I have opened the wrong directory. Seven.
So can you please show using
Okay.
WSL how to install all the packages?
One second. Sorry, this was not the. This is the previous session code, because I could see the header in the blue background. I was experimenting with something, that's why. Nice. So the reason why it's saying task one is because I have added in the home.js, I have added this authentication token. So if I will remove this line and try to run this, then you can see that it's unexpected response. Because what happened, we didn't send the authentication token, and server sent us the form, the HTML form, where we are required to put our username and password. So because it's a form, So, I mean, the way we are handling the response is if it's not a JSON response, we are just saying unexpected response. We were expecting JSON. Okay, and if I will, so as I explained earlier, that in the headers, all you have to do, you have to like create a header authentication. You have to set the value of the authentication header, the authentication token, and you will be, I mean, the server will understand that you are an authorized user and it will send back the data which you have requested for. So is this clear?
This
All
part
you
is
have,
clear, sir.
huh?
Yeah, this one is clear. I'm having one problem, sir.
Yeah.
So that API that you shared now, I'm not able to install the required packages by virtual environment. So will you please show using WSL how to do it, because you have .sh files set up and
Yeah, I will try to, okay, I will try to like write a document how to install. I will write it
okay,
in the .md file, the
okay,
readme
sir.
MD
Okay.
file.
Fine, sir.
But I will be writing for the WSL because I am using the WSL.
For WSL, sir. For this one, we know.
All you
Using
have to
Python.
do, you have to create a virtual env. I mean, you need to have a Python 3
Mhm.
and a virtual env package. If you don't have, then you can install that package, and then local, and you have to run. I will tell you the exact. And once you have both these things, you just have to go to the local dot. You have to run the local dot sh using source.
Yes, sir.
Source means I will write it in the chat. Okay. Source and then local backup dot sh, and it will just like download all the packages which is required, which is inside the requirements.txt.
This is to be done in WSL terminal, no?
Yeah, WSL terminal, and after that you just have to run source, run local run.sh. I will write it in the .md file.
Yes.
So now we know how to like make a authenticated request. All you have to do, you just have to create a header authentication token and put your authentication token inside this. So what will be our approach? We are going to use this authentic. We are going to store this authentication token inside the local storage, so that we don't have to like get the authentication token again and again. If you are like, if you have not stored it anywhere persistently, then every time you refresh, even if you have stored it in your in the big store, every time you will refresh, it will be gone. So you'll have to log in again. And that this is not the kind of behavior you want from your application. So what we are going to do, we are going to store this authentication token in local storage, and then we will fetch this authentication token from the local storage, and we will send it back to the server whenever we will make a request. So let's start the process. Hold on a second, I'll come back in a minute. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are.
So what we will do, we'll start. Okay, we will not create the file. We will create a directory called Vuex. And inside the Vuex, we will create one file, index.js, which is kind of main file. And if needed, we will be splitting this index.js in separate files. Like there will be a index.js and we can create a separate file for the mutations and for the actions. Or even if we have a lot of states, then we can separate it in states also. But there will not be a lot of states, so we don't have to worry. But let's see what happens. So the first thing we need to do is we need to like write this. We need to attach the like CDN for the Vuex in your application. So I will go to the index.html. This is where we are like putting all our Vue2. I mean, all our CDNs. So this CDN belongs to the Vue2, and this belongs to the router, and this belongs to the Vuex. So let's start off with creating a Vuex instance. So I will call it store. And let's create a state and call it logged in. And it is by default, it will be a false. So we have only one state, logged in, which like indicates whether the user is logged in or not. By default, it will be false. That if that is, I mean, the user is logged out, is not logged in. And we will be creating the mutations to change this. But before that, let's check whether, and let's integrate this store with our application. So how would you do that? So what I will do, export default and store. So I need to export this store and then I will go to the app.js, which is our main file. I will, yeah, this is our main file. So now we have already like injected the router here. So we will also inject the store. From Vuex / x.js. And now what I have to do, I have to just now all our components know about this store. So by injecting this store inside our main component, it's like saying that hey, all the saying to all the components that we have stored now. If you want to use the state of the state defined in the store, you can use it. It's available to all the components using this $sign store. And if you want to use the state, then .state. So where I will go to the home.js, and what I will do, I will try to like print this state here. So inside this button, after this button, I will create a div element. That's div. And let's check whether we are able to Like fetch this dot dollar sign to state dot login. I hope the syntax is correct. Yeah, you can see that we are able to see this false here. That is, our store is correctly installed in our application. Now all we have to do, we have to like create the mutations which will change this state, and we will also create the actions where we will write our login and logout functions, which will be a asynchronous function, because in order to log in, we need to send a request to the server, and that will be a asynchronous request because we don't want to freeze our browser. So if you want to send a asynchronous request, you need to use the like actions. So from the chase, okay, let's leave it here. So I will go to the Vuex index.js. So first thing, I will create the mutations, and inside the mutation, I will define login. This is the function. What it will do, it will change the login to false. If I mean login to true, logged into state to true. So it will take state as a parameter, and now I can change state dot login. So what this mutation does, it just changes the the logged in state. I mean, if some user log in, then it will change the state to true. Okay. So this is how you expect. If there is a logged in state, so you'll make it true if some user is logged in. If user is not logged in, you'll make it false. So let's create a logout also. Logout, and the logout will also take the state because this state. And what should I do here? State dot
Logged in false.
yeah, logged in. Now we have this thing. Let's do one thing. Let's create a component. Now let's create a view, and we will call it login. Login.js. So in order to access this login.js, we need to tell the router that we have one more page. Okay. Also call it login. And which we are going to use component equal to login component. So if we are using this component, we need to import this. Import in view as So if I'll go here and type slash, okay, I have not written anything. So there is no point visiting this route. So inside this login.js, what I will do, export default, and here I'll write template, template. Login. Now if I go here and go to the login, say that login here. So, and now, and I'll also get the state. State. Let's remove this login here. State, and then I will just use that store. This dot dollar sign store dot state dot state is false. So let's say, let's use this and let's create two buttons. We are just trying out things here. We're just checking whether our like store is set up correctly. I mean, all the mutations and actions are working. That's why we are doing all these things. Button. Let's write PR here. Button. Log in. And then same kind of button I will create here. Log. So we have two buttons. So what is the natural progression? What we should do now? We should implement this two methods, login and logout, which will trigger that mutation. Or we can copy that mutations in our methods using the map mutations. So we will be using the map mutations.
So mutations we are going to define.
No, mutations we already have defined.
No, login and logout methods in mutation.
We will linking those mutations to this button, right?
Yeah.
Using methods over here, no? So methods.
Yes. I mean, we need to trigger that. So we are not creating new method. What we are doing, we are just copying those mutations in our code.
Okay,
using this like map mutations.
Okay, sir.
Okay, yeah, the basic idea is what someone, I mean, I don't know the name, but someone said that we are linking this button to the mutation. So like if someone clicks on this button, that mutation will be triggered, which in turn will change the state of that login. I mean, which will change the login status.
And similarly, we can see that the state true false in the template as well.
Yes, that's why. Correct. Methods. Inside the methods, what I will do, I will just, if you know the spread operator, Vuex, dot let's check the correctness whether the map mutations where are this application. I will just copy this. I don't want to make a syntax error. I'll explain what happened here. So, so what you can do, like map mutation will send you a object. Vuex.map mutation, if you are not using the Vue CLI, you will have to write the Vuex first. Vuex.map mutation will send you an object, and if you will write the array like this, like I want login and log out. I only want these two methods. This is what you are instructing to the Vue store, that create a object with the mutations login and log out and send me back. And what I'm doing here is I am spreading those mutations. I mean, in some sense, we are copying that object in the methods. Now I can use this login and log out. And the good part is you don't have to write a commit here. Like I'll write it in the comment. This dot login here will be mapped to this dot store dot commit and then login. I mean, I hope this is the correct syntax. Yeah, you write
Double quotes.
so this is like equivalent to this statement. So this will make our life much easier. You don't have to write all these big sentences, because if you write a lot of words in a sentence, I mean, you are more prone to make a mistake. So this is better to use the map mutations. So now what I will do, I will just trigger this login and log out. Click. If I will click on the login button, what I want to trigger this login. Click. Okay. So let's check whether it's working and hope for the best. So login will make it true and logout will make it false. So far so good. And the idea is after we are done with the experimenting, what we'll do, we'll create a form here. And once the user clicks on this login button, now we'll collect those form data and send it back to the user using the post request as we did in the postman. We will be collecting this data from the form and making a post request to this endpoint, and that endpoint will send us the authentication token, and we will use the like local storage to store this authentication token. This is the simple idea. And we are going to do it in this login component. But before that, we will be like making sure that everything is working fine. That's why we started with the simple state, and then we have implemented the mutations login and logout. Now it's time for the actions. So inside the Vuex, now we have login, logout, and now actions. actions. So actions, the first action will be, I change the name, LO login user I will make, because I am also going to import this along with this mutation. So there will be a name conflict in login logout. And if you know the spread, if you know this destructuring, the argument destructuring, so what you want to do? Yeah, I mean, if you see the actions will state the context. By the context mean anything that you can pass to the store. I mean, any methods that you can use with the store, you can use with the actions also. Am I making sense? So now you have, if you have a store object, so you in any component you like face that store object with this dot slash store, and you can use multiple methods like commit, dispatch, and you can use all those methods inside the actions, and those methods and all the things that the A store can do will be passed in a variable context. And this will be object, so you can destructure that object. And because we are only going to use commit here, so we will only catch this commit, and rest of the thing we will leave. We are not going to dispatch any action from here. Are you familiar with this syntax? Hello.
Yes.
Sir, actions, yeah.
Okay. So all I'm saying that from the object which you are passing to me, I'll just take the commit. So what I have to do here, so the first thing we need to do, we need to send a post request to the API, login API. I mean, I have to make this request from here, and once the response is okay, then I will store this inside the local storage. This was the plan. So in order to do that, we need to, it will also pass the, I mean, pass some, you can also pass some data to the actions. So that, and we will be passing the user here. You know this like syntax, huh? To the actions, you can pass some data, and you can do some actions. I mean, you guys know this concept.
Sir, at most we can pass only one parameter. No?
No, in the actions you can. In the actions, there will be two parameters. One is context, and second is the data which you pass when you dispatch the action. You can dispatch a action using, I mean, with some data also.
No, we are contacting Flask security for that authorization code.
Yeah.
Is it okay?
So this commit we will use for the Vuex, because we are going to commit a mutation, login mutation, and user is the data which we will get from the form.
Yes,
and
sir.
we will send a request to the server. So what I will do, I will not create a new, I will not do all those. I mean, I will be using this fetch function because I have already created an abstraction over the fetch request. So I'll be using this fetch function. I mean, fetch function file. Import fetch function from .js. So if you remember, it takes, if you go to the fetch function, in the fetch function, you pass a URL and you pass an init object, and this will return you a promise if some error happens, like 3 layers of errors here. If there is some network error, it will inform you or the unexpected response. If the response was not JSON, so it will say unexpected response, or let's say there is some error from the API like 404 or that kind of error, or 409, any kind of response, then that will be handled here. So all the errors I have already handled, and so I don't have to write this code again and again. So all I will do, I will use this fetch function. So here what I will do inside the actions, and I will make it asynchronous function, async, and then response equal to fetch function. And inside the fetch function, the first thing we need to do is we need to send the URL. So I will write that URL. I will copy that from here. Control V and slash login. This was the URL. So I'm making this making a fetch request to this URL, and the method and now we'll have to pass one object also, which we are calling init object. So inside the init object, we need to specify, what kind of, it's not mandatory to send this request, but if you are using the get request, if you are sending the get request, you don't have to write all this init object, because because the fetch function, the fetch API will send the get request by default. But if you are using any other method, you need to specify that inside the init object. So method will be post. And for now, let's create a dummy data. And so for now, we are not going to use this user, because we have not created a form and we have not handled that form. So for now, what we will do, we will simply create an object like we did in this postman. I will just copy this object and send a request. Body JSON JSON dot stringify. If you remember from the previous classes, JSON dot stringify is used to create a JSON string from a JavaScript object. So I need to specify the JavaScript object, and that will be email. Email is user2 @gmail.com, and password is 1234. So what we are saying here, we want to send asynchronous is.
So it was email and username, na? At this URL, the object was having two fields, email and username.
No, we are sending a request, post request. We are sending it to server.
So it will first verify the password and then it will generate the authentication token.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, like the parcel which I think you are like talking about the Marcel with dictionary which we created.
sir.
That will
Yeah.
be used for responding, for the response.
Yes.
But we are making a request as a client to server, and here we need to specify what is my email and what is my password. You take this email and password and generate a authentication token to me. I mean, generate a authentication token and send back to me. And
Yes, sir.
for next time, I will send that authentication token. So I'll be able to like fetch all the records there.
Yes, sir.
So I have made this fetch here, and now I'm using this fetch function. So fetch function, either it will be either it will resolve or reject. And I already explained that fetch function will be sending you the promise. So I'll handle that promise response dot then if correct. We're not going to commit anything here for now. The first I'll just log in onto the console data. If the response was successful, the request was successful, I want to log that console.log, and I will log that data. And if not, then I will log that error. What happened? Okay. So I need to trigger this action. So the first thing I need to do, I need to go to the login and then import this action. Do the same thing. I don't want to. So map actions, map location. So this will do the same thing. So in actions, you dispatch the action. So this will do the similar kind of mapping, but this time this will be the commit will be dispatched. I mean, you do what I'm trying to say here is you don't have to like write all these big sentences. You can just use this login. I mean, you can use this action directly. This will automatically convert it in this dot $sign store dot dispatch, and then the the dispatch name. I mean the action name. Similarly, I mean it's similar to how it did for the map notations. You can go and explore these map notations and map actions. These are very useful things. For now, we don't have logout user, so I will remove this. And instead of this, what I will do, I will trigger this action. Once the user click on login, I will be triggering this action, login user. Let's check what happens. I mean, this is not going to change. I mean, let me make the commit here also. So the data, log it into the console and also commit this. Commit the action. So let's run this. See what happens. Read silently, unexpected error, fetch function.js. The error was this one. Yeah, I am making something. Let's go with it.
So this email and password must be matching, na?
So same email and password.
It should be same, whatever you have provided there.
Yeah. Okay. Let's copy this. This is the and the first is URL and second is the init object. So we are making post request with the body, email and user 2 and password. Why it's showing error? Right. What's wrong? Because I have implemented these mutations and actions. Okay, I forgot to write this content type inside the header. So you need to specify that the request you are sending is a JSON object. I mean, it's a JSON string. I mean, this is the standard practice. We did this in the last sessions. So whenever you are sending a JSON data, you need to inform the server that the data is of application slash JSON. Is there any doubt here? You are sending a JSON data, so you need to inform the server that this is JSON data. And the way you do it, you specify the content type inside the headers. Let me make a request now. Yeah, it says true. That is, it is working. Now you can see all these things. So the response, inside the response, we have authentication token. Anybody has any question?
No doubts.
Okay, fine. So what I said, I'll create one response token data dot. Just have to check how this. I mean the form of the data. Data dot
So this data is in JSON format.
yeah. No, it's
Yeah.
yeah.
So
If you It's a JavaScript object because you changed it in JavaScript object here.
In function, fetch function, we are writing response.json, no?
Yeah, so that will
So,
change the response into JavaScript object.
okay.
So I just want to see the structure of the response. I can see from here. So the response will come. So this will be an object, and inside the object there will be a response field. I will go here and data dot response, and then go to the user.
Response.user.
Let's not take a risk.
Authentication.
So what we are doing here, data dot response dot user dot authentication token. So we are not like taking all the data, we are just taking the authentication token. And let's log in that and see whether we are able to get this authentication token. Yeah. So what we will do, we will store it in a local storage. Local storage dot set item, and then the name I will call it token. Then I will the auth token. I will store this auth token inside this data. And then once the token is like stored inside the local storage, then we will commit the login, and that will change the status. I mean the state user logged in. This state logged in. So now the similar way we need to create a logout also. So for logout, we don't have to do much of a hustle. What we need to do, we need to clear that. We need to clear this local storage, because once the user is logged in, we want that authentication token to be gone from their browser's memory. Logout, and here also I want to have commit. Will not get anything. All we will do, we will take this local storage, okay, local storage dot remove item, and token I want to remove. So it will remove the token, and then what we'll do, commit logout. Let's try this. So now if I will log in this time, it will say the true, and if I will go here and see that we are getting this authentication token, and if I go to the application and go to the local storage,
There is no entry.
Check in the session storage.
huh?
The session storage.
No, it's local storage. So you want to use the session storage? I did not understand your question. Storage dot set item token or token. Let's yeah, the token is here. Let's delete this. Taking way too much time. Let's go here and delete. There is no token here. So if I will like log in, then this is set to be true, and this is the like authentication token, and I hope that the value is stored inside the, I mean, the token is also stored here. And if I log out, then the status has become false. And let's check whether this token is here or not. This token thing.
But sir, when you are refreshing, it's changing status to false.
Yeah, I mean, that is, this statement has executed correctly.
Okay.
Let me do one thing. Let's try this in model. So let's go to the storage is local storage, set local storage, no data. Now let's try login. Yeah, you can see that the token has appeared. Now let's log out. It's not disappearing. So, okay, we have not like attached this logout user with this. We are making a mistake here. So if you go to the home, the login.js, we are using this logout notation, which is only going to change the state. So we need to do this logout user action. Check the name once again. Logout. Okay. I'll copy this name so that I don't make mistake. And there is login. Here. So now, if I mean the last time what we are doing, we were just committing a a mutation, which was changing the state from true to false, but it was doing nothing with the local storage because we have handled the local storage inside the actions. So now let's go here, and no data is present here. Let's go to the login. Yeah. We have a token, and let's log out. The data is gone. Login. The token has been stored inside the local storage, and once you log out, it will be gone. So you can use the session storage also, but the problem with the session storage, once you close the browser, it will be gone. But the local storage will remain even you switch off your computer. So I mean, this depends how you want to implement in your application. But I'm going with the local storage because I don't want to like log out the user once the user like close the browser. So we have logout, login has been implemented. Now one thing I wanted to do, like if I'll go to the index.js and logged in is false. So I'll first check whether there is some data inside the local storage. What I'm trying to say here, if you go here and even if you are logged in and there is a token inside here. Okay. State is not checking. Why? Commit. Okay. Mistake. So if you log in, then you can see that the token comes, and if you log out, it will become false. And then if you again log in, the token will come back, and if you refresh, it remains true. And why it remains true, I don't understand.
So it is in local storage, no?
Yeah, but we are checking the logged in. This one. So if you refresh, I am assuming that the logged in will become false. It has nothing to do.
But will that clear local storage?
No.
No, that is not.
There is no dependency on local storage for this variable.
Okay.
That's why I'm surprised.
Mm.
Logout, it is false. And login, it's true. Hard refresh. Hard refresh, it will show false. Login. It automatically log out because it will clear the local storage. Let's try here. False. Login true. Now it will become false. This is the kind of behavior I was expecting. Because if you see this logged in state, This is false. It doesn't depend on the local storage. So what we want, we want to send the data, the logged in based on the local storage. Because if someone has the authentication token inside the local storage, that means he is logged in. So I will implement that. Local storage dot get item, and that will be like token. So if it's correct, make it true. If not, if not. So what I'm saying here, try to get the token from the local storage. If not, if you were successful, make it true. If not, then make it false. Does this make sense? If something
sir.
inside the local, if the token is inside the local storage, you are logged in. Now I go here and click on the login. You can see that it's true. And if I click on false and refresh again, it will be false. So if I click on login and then refresh, it will not change from true to false. It will stay true. I mean, this is and now the local storage, the token inside the local storage and the state is like it's coupled. If the token is inside the local storage, the user is logged in. If not, then it's not logged in. I guess the time is already 11. So can we like proceed it further in the next session?
Okay, sir. Sir, will you please share these two codes?
Codes means I have only one code. I mean, I have just
Sorry, no.
made some changes in the.
No, that you said that document something MD.
Okay. Inside the README, I will write the instructions to install that API in your local system.
Okay, in the same API folder, no?
Yeah, in the same API repository.
Okay, sir.
I'll just edit that.
Sure. Sir.
So any question?
No, sir.
How are you guys finding this Vue.js? Is it tough compared to the Flask or it's easy?
So need to go through Flask security once again. This part is easy to understand. Vuex and all those.
I mean, I'm asking, you are finding tough to, I mean, which one is easier according to you, Vuex or Flask?
Vuex is
Vue
easier.
or Flask?
Vue is easier.
Sir, I find Flask to be a bit easier.
Yeah.
Actually, so the concept in Vue and Vuex is so much advanced
Right.
kind of thing that we have to understand, we have to try, test, then only we will be able to have a complete hold over it. But in Flask, it is easy that okay, these are the construct that we have to use, and after that, everything becomes like a simple programming.
Yeah, in order to start a Flask application, you just have to write like max to max 10 lines of code. Just create a
But if
Flask
we have to
instance.
achieve complex things in front end, then definitely Vuex need to be done.
Yes. But I find it very interesting. The Vue thing is very testing because it's reactive. And think about if you have to implement all these things in JavaScript, vanilla JavaScript, and that will be a nightmare. I will request all of you to go through all these things. I mean, the reason why I am creating a large project in the live session this time because I want to show you guys how you can structure your code and how you can like keep on building on the same project. Because one of the problems that multiple people face that they create a application and they are not able to like add more functionalities. So this time I decided that I will make a single project throughout the life session. So now we have like authentication. We will finish this authentication authorization in the next live session, and then we will like try to implement the salary here also, like the backend job also. Like we can send the email to the client. So whoever is registered in here, you can send a email to them that hey, you have this task pending. You can go and complete this task, or you have completed this task. This kind of notification to their email address. So we try to like integrate those kind of functionality in our application also. And if you want, you can like use the bootstrap to make it make it look good. I'm not like using any bootstrap because the whole point of these sessions are to like, focus on the keyword.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, I have a general query. Is the concept of state mutations committing it are specific to the Vue or other frameworks like
No,
Angular?
other frameworks also use all these things. Like they also have the state management extensions, the routing extensions. This is the general concept,
Okay.
but the syntax will differ and how they have implemented might be different.
This is basically the general idea of how to design the
Yeah,
storage
reactive.
in the
Yeah,
client side.
how to like create a reactive application. You know, Vue, Angular, and React, all these are the reactive frameworks. They have like similar kind of functionalities. So once you understand one framework, like pretty good, then you can like move to the other framework, and it will look easier to you.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Okay, so we close the session then.
Okay, sir.
Okay, sir.
Thank you for the session, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.